Hello student, today we are going to learn third chapter of Civics, Constitutional Design. In this chapter, you will learn about the process of constitution making, the need of a constitution, who designed the constitution in what way, and you will get a fair idea about the nature of Indian constitution and how freedom struggle is related with the political setup of India. You are going to learn this thing in this chapter. So let's begin with this. What is a constitution? The basic rules that the citizen and the government have to follow are called as constitution. There are some certain rules which every citizen, leaders, states, in fact, whole nations have to follow. As the supreme law of the country, constitutions determine the rights of citizens as well as the power and duty and how the government should function. All are determined by constitution. And we have description of constitution. A constitution of a country is a set of written rules that are accepted by all people living together in a country. Constitution is a supreme law that determines the relationship among people living in a territory and also the relationship between the people and government. Then, a constitution does many things. Let's see that. Number one, it generates a degree of trust and coordination that is necessary for different kind of people to live together. Second, it specifies how the government will be constituted, who will have power to take which decisions. And third, we have it lays down limits on the powers of the government and tells what the rights of the citizens are. And fourth, we have it expresses the aspiration of the people about creating a good society. So that are the main functions a constitution play to maintain peace and to develop a nation. Next, all the country which have a constitution is necessarily called a democratic. No, all countries that have constitutions are not necessarily called a democratic country. But all countries that are democratic will have a constitution. See how different countries of the world have their own constitution. After the War of Independence against Great Britain, the Americans gave themselves a constitution. After the revolution, the French people approved a democratic constitution. Since then, it has become a practice in all democracies to have a written constitution. So all the countries of the world which have democracy always have constitution. Then why do we need a constitution? To understand this, let's take an example of South America. Why do we need a constitution? Is it really that much important? So to understand this, let's take an example of South Africa. During 17th and 18th century, trading companies from Europe traveled to South Africa and occupied armed forces, and then they became the local rulers of South Africa. After that, they started a local rule known as apartheid system. It's a system of racial discrimination. Apartheid system divided the people of South Africa on the basis of skin color. The native people of South Africa made up of 3/4 of the population, and they were called blacks. Europeans who were fair in color were known as white. White considered themselves superior and treated others as inferior. Apartheid system was so harsh that it led to segregation. Non-white did not have the right to vote. They were prohibited from living in white areas. They could work in white areas only if they had permitted, and in transport, hospitals, education system, cinema hall, beaches, swimming pools and toilets were all separated for the whites and blacks. They could not visit the church where white worship. They were not allowed to form association or protest against such terrible treatment. Time passed by, people suffer a lot. That was how black people were discriminated in South Africa due to this apartheid system. In the year of 1912, ANC means African National Congress was formed with the aim of fighting for the rights. After 1950, the blacks and Indian fights against apartheid. They protest, march and strike against the ruling government of whites. In the year 1960, South African government banned ANC, but still Nelson Mandela and few other leaders continued to protest. As a result, in 1964, government killed thousands of blacks and colored people. Nelson Mandela and 7 other leaders were sentenced of life imprisonment. But the protests continue with more power. Workers' Union, Communist Party, sensitive whites all joined ANC. As the protests and the struggle increased, government realized they could no longer rule. So, after 28 years of imprisonment, Nelson Mandela walked out of jail as a free man, and negotiation was held between both the parties. And finally, on 26 April 1944, a new flag of South Africa was unfurled. Then, after the emergence of new South Africa, black leaders appealed to forgive the whites. New South Africa, based on equality, democratic value, social justice, and human rights. Both the parties sat together and came out with the world's finest constitution they have ever had. However, making a constitution was not that much easy and simple. Black wanted majority rule, one person, one vote, rights for the poor and workers. White wanted the majority rule would not be absolute. They would not take away the property of white minority. So after a long negotiation, both parties agreed to compromise. But what was guaranteed that this trust will not be broken in future? So they wrote down some basic rules which everyone should follow, like how the rulers are to be chosen in future, what government can and cannot do, rights of the citizens. They also agreed these rules should be supreme. No government will be ignored this. So this set of basic rule is called a constitution, and this example of South Africa tells why we need a constitution also. So from this, we know this point. Let's see. Why do we need a constitution? We have a clear idea of this with the help of the story of Africa. And from that, we know every country drafts its own constitution. A constitution of a nation is the set of written rules accepted by the people living together in a country, and it generates trust and coordination. And next we have it specifies how a government should be functioned. It lays down the limits on the power of the government. It expresses the aspiration of the people about creating a good society. So that are the reason why a constitution is needed. With this, we end here, and remaining topic we'll discuss in next class. Thank you.